that, listen, I created you, I formed you, I redeemed you, I called you by name. And I want to remind you that all these other lovers you're pursuing, they ain't better than me. You are mine. You are mine. I'm married to you. That I will go through any measure to set you free from bondage. I would take you out of a bad relationship to free you from bondage. I would deliver you from alcohol to free you from bondage. I would get you away from your crazy parents to free you from bondage. I would go through any lengths necessary to free you from bondage. I will strip you of everything you think you need to put you on your knees to cry out to me, that you realize I'm the only thing you need to free you from bondage. Watch, I will not leave my son and daughter in chains. So when the Lord said things like, I know the plans I have for you, to a people in Babylonian captivity, y'all gonna make it through this exile because you are attached to me. When Jesus said things like, I've gone to prepare a place for you, he's telling you no matter what you go through in this life, you can survive that because you're connected to me. Who am I talking to? You can survive anything you're going through because you're connected to me. Not because of your own strength, but because of my strength in you. I need to shake somebody in their shoulders and say, you can survive anything you're going through, even the loss of a child, because you're connected to me. Not because of any intrinsic strength you have, but because you're connected to me. Family, I'm gonna share some things with you that's gonna be difficult to hear. Nonetheless, they are truth, and I think they need to be spoken in this moment, in the context of this passage. Right now, as I'm talking to you, there are hundreds of people in this room. I don't know how many people are watching me or where you're watching me, but as human beings, there are many things we all struggle with as human beings. This room is full of human struggles. Both struggles we can see on the outside and struggles that are not visible, things that are tangible and things that are intangible. But there is one particular struggle that does much damage to us. It does much damage to how we see. It does much damage to how we live. It does much damage to how you feel, both mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It does much damage to the soul. And that is the human struggle with personal identity. When you don't know who you are, you can live your whole life as a thermometer of confusion or a chameleon based on whatever is going on around you. When you don't have a sense of real, right identity. I didn't say your identity. Right identity. When you don't have a sense of right identity, you can have vacillating behavior void of any real convictions. And so you're acting one way on Monday, but you're acting a different way on Wednesday. You're vacillating between one person on 1 week and you're a different person the next week. And when you don't have a sense of identity, you can come into a space and become that space because you have no idea of who you really are. So whatever's happening in culture, you could just become that. When you don't have a sense of real identity, you're always evolving into something different, but never becoming who you was created to be. So it's like, yeah, and in every season we find you, you have become something new, but you still not have yet become what you're supposed to be. So you are some other version of what you think you're supposed to be, but you're really not what you're supposed to be. And so whatever is popular, I could become that. Whatever my friends are, I could become that. Whatever is popping on Instagram, I could become that. When you have no sense of identity, every time we bump into you, you might look like something different, but you may not look like what you're supposed to be. When we don't have a real sense of identity, oftentimes we could put up with things too long that are unhealthy or dangerous or abusive. Sometimes when we don't have a sense of identity, you put up with things or you settle for things that if you had a real sense of identity, you would never settle for what you're settling for. Sometimes we stay in abusive situations too long because we don't have identity. We stay in bad relationships too long because we don't have identity. We stay in bad places too long because we don't have identity. We let people treat us any way they want to because we don't have a sense of identity. Because when you know who you are, man, you walk different. When you know who you are, you live different. You talk different. Can I go deeper? When you know who you are, you pray different. You seek God different when you know who you are. Your faith is different when you know who you are. Your swag is different when you know who you are. You handle trouble differently when you know who you are. You bounce back from things quicker when you know who you are. Man, everything changes the way you see yourself, the way you see life, the way you see your past, your present, and your future when you have a right identity about who you are. What are the major things that serve to help shape identity? Things like upbringing shapes our identity. The home you was raised in helps to shape identity. Your parents and what they taught you or lack of parents can shape identity. Identity can be shaped by environment. Sometimes we are in the environment that we have come from. Identity can be shaped by exposure. Some of us, we have identity that's shaped in failure. We think we are where we failed. So we label ourselves a failure based on something from your past. Some of us, we have an identity from a difficult season, or we form an identity from struggles. We say stuff like ownership, like this is just my depression. Your worldview can affect your identity. All these things and the like, they serve to shape identity, but perhaps one of the greatest shapers or molders of identity is what you believe about your own self based on two things. They both start with a K: knowledge and kinship. That is, watch, what you know, can I go deeper? And who you belong to. One of the greatest molders of identity is knowledge and kinship. What you know and who you belong to. Like, for example, one of my favorite movies is Planet of the Apes. Anybody have ever seen that movie? And the central figure is this dude named Caesar, an ape who's being raised by human beings. He spends his whole life with human beings until one day he's walking in a park and sees other animals on a leash, because he's on a leash, and then he asks his owner, "What is Caesar?" Watch. Why am I on a leash? Why have I been living in this bondage every time I gotta go outside? He says, "What is Caesar?" You know what he's searching for? His identity. So the owner takes him to the place where he was born and said, "This is where you was born, this is who your mother was, this is where you came from, this was your supernatural birth." He begins to scratch his head, and now he's finding for himself for the first time his real identity. It changes the way that he lives. It changes the way that he moves. He breaks free from the bondage of the house he was in. He leads a revival. I see movies different. He invades a place that's trapped apes, busts open the cage door, and leads people who were formerly bound free, and creates a home for people that look like him. He began to search for his, and when he found it changed the way that he. His discovery of his true identity even changed his legacy. It changed what, watch, he left behind. Can I go deep? Let's stick with Caesar. He could have died a pet. Or die a revivalist. That, listen, I created you, I formed you, I redeemed you, I called you by name. And I want to remind you that all these other lovers you're pursuing, they ain't better than me. You are mine. You are mine. I'm married to you. I put my name on you. You got my seal on you. When people see you, they're supposed to see me. You are mine. God was saying to them, whatever your issues was from the past, and whatever your insensitivities are, whatever you were going through that make you can't see me or hear me, I want you to watch. Forget the past. Forget the drama we've been through. Forget the brokenness in our relationship from the past. Forget the fact that for thousands of years you've been running from me. I want you to, listen, let's have a clean slate. Gosh, this is so powerful. I want you to forget the past. And now God was calling them to focus only on one thing only. Whose you are. He's trying to shape their identity with these words. First he says, I created you, Israel. You're not just like any nation. This is going to make sense to y'all in a few minutes. You're not just like any group of people. I created you separated from every other nation so that you can bear my image in the earth. You're not like all the other ites, the Canaanites and the Jebusites and the Gergesites and all these ites. You are the nation of Israel. I personally from heaven created you as a nation in the earth to be distinct and different from every other people group, so that every time people bump into you, they feel me. They don't believe that, Frank. So when the Lord said things like, I know the plans I have for you, to a people in Babylonian captivity, y'all gonna make it through this exile because you are attached to me. When Jesus said things like, I've gone to prepare a place for you, he's telling you no matter what you go through in this life, you can survive that because you're connected to me. Who am I talking to? You can survive anything you're going through because you're connected to me. Not because of your own strength, but because of my strength in you. I need to shake somebody in their shoulders and say, you can survive anything you're going through, even the loss of a child, because you're connected to me. Not because of any intrinsic strength you have, but because you're connected to me. This is powerful. Just as much as God says that you belong to me, God is now saying to them, I belong to you. In the same way we belong to Jesus, Jesus belongs to you. This is the reciprocity of covenant. You are mine. Who can finish this? And I am yours. I belong to God, but Yahweh belongs to me. It's the reciprocity of covenant. So no matter what I go through, I always have Yahweh with me. God was telling them, if you fully commit yourself to me, I will fully commit myself to you. That for God, there is no price too great to pay for the rescue of his people. He proved that with his death of his own son on the cross. So watch verse 4. What would he do such a thing? He even says, man, I give these people in exchange. I don't have time to touch this, but pretty much when they was in captivity, he caused other nations to fight against the nation they was in captive with, and then that nation overcame that nation, released Israel so that they can take the other nations captive. So he exchanged other people for Israel to be set free. The nation that's holding you captive, I'm gonna send people to make war against them. I'm gonna let them conquer those people, and then they'll be so satisfied with the new people they conquer, they release you to go back to your homeland. So I give people in exchange for you. That I will go through any measure to set you free from bondage. I would take you out of a bad relationship to free you from bondage. I would deliver you from alcohol to free you from bondage. I would get you away from your crazy parents to free you from bondage. I would go through any lengths necessary to free you from bondage. I will strip you of everything you think you need to put you on your knees to cry out to me, that you realize I'm the only thing you need to free you from bondage. Watch, I will not leave my son and daughter in chains.
Wow. Thank you, Lord.
I don't like that relationship you in, but you can't walk away. I know what I'll do. I'm going to snatch them from your life. Lena Claire Mitchell, dating big time drug dealer, crying for a way out, but don't have the strength to leave. He gets locked up for a weekend. She packs up her stuff. She goes back to another city. God rearranges circumstances to deliver her from a bad situation, even before she was fully committed to him. Just seeing the cry of her heart. I got a plan for that one named Lena. I ain't gonna leave her in bondage. I'm gonna do what's necessary to set her free. She don't even know. She's gonna be the first lady of a great church. You are precious to me. You are honored by me. You are loved by me. I know you don't feel loved, but you are. I'm either a liar or I'm telling the truth. I know many of us struggle with the feelings of being loved. Like we wonder because it's like it's in our mind, but it doesn't make the drop to our heart. But you know why you can trust God's love? I'm going to read the last 3 verses and I'm going to be done. Look at me. You know why you can trust that God really, he loves you? Because his love, there's no delusions in his love. Pastor, I don't get it. There's some things about DeAndrea I don't know. So if she and I came into a relationship, I can love her until I see things in her I don't like no more. And they say, no, I don't love you no more. Because my love is conditional. But when a person who knows the depths of your heart says he loves you, knows all of your mistakes and your failures and your hang-ups, but still loves you, knows the mistakes you made yesterday, last week, and last year, but still loves you, knows the foolishness you're gonna do next month, but still loves you. When a person that knows you better than you know you and still says, I love you, a person that sees the depths of your heart, your wickedness, your darkness, and your sin, and still says, I love you, no, that love can be trusted. Like, you know all of me and you really still love me? How? You know what I was thinking last night and you still love me? You know all the things I love more than you and you still love me? Nothing, the writer says, can separate you from the love of God. Not height or depths, or angels or principalities. Like, you can't escape that love.